Welcome back. Here we are again. This is Joe Rebelo for Rebelo's Kenpo Karate, and just taking some ideas and giving some basic concepts to work with and take a look at American Kenpo and appreciate it in new and interesting ways. We're going to talk about the concept of ambidextrous behavior and symmetrical action. You know, that's the Kenpo cheer, you know? Give me a B! Give me another B! Give me another B! What's it spell? You ever been to a Kenpo seminar? Sometimes you feel that way. You got brain frying in your head because you've been given so much stuff, your brain just can't take it anymore. Perfectly understandable, but we're going to give you a simpler way of understanding what we're talking about here. Ambidextrious means you can use each one of your hands equally. Mr. Parker had a wonderful phrase. He said, you know, whenever my black belts get a little bit cocky, I make them do all their self-defense techniques on the opposite side. He says it really humbles them. And again, when we look at all of our advanced forms, that idea of ambidextrous behavior, doing symmetrical action. Ambidextrous behavior, I do my left side, I do my right side. Again, all the way from short form 1 on up, it's very prevalent in all of our forms, whether it be relationship to ambidextrous basics, working each side equally. And sometimes ambidextrous action is both hands working together. So, now symmetrical action is part of that. That's the level regarding symmetrical action, ambidextrous behavior, both your hands simultaneously. We see this in many of our sets, like striking set, different understandings in regards to that. And we're going to show you some techniques to give you some ideas regarding that. And again, Mr. Dennis Blackwell is going to be assisting me here. Left foot cat. Very good. So now, we're going to take a couple of basic ideas. Hey, before I forget, let me give, as the great Stan Lee from Marvel Comics used to give, a wonderful, notorious no prize to Mr. Todd Durgan. Mr. Todd Durgan, student of Mr. A.C. Rainey, owner and operator and chief bottle washer at Kenpo Guy Productions. Many years ago, when I put out a video on YouTube regarding the technique, I want to say, cross twigs. As I blank on thinking suddenly, And he mentioned that I had myself stepping in, and he said to me, no, Joe, you're supposed to step off diagonally. You indeed are correct, so let's pick that idea and have some fun with it in relationship to ambidextrous behavior and symmetrical action. First of all, the concept is, I'm going to use two-hand attacks here. Now, let's go on to elaborating on the concept of ambidextrous behavior and symmetrical action by picking select techniques in American Kenpo. In this case, let's pick the technique begging hands. It's our first technique for blue if you do the 24 technique curriculum. Now this is against a front two-hand grab to each wrist. And we talked a little bit about this when we were going over whatever the attitude, so is the response segment. When a person grabs me by the wrist, what I'm going to do, he's got both of his hands using ambidextrous behavior and symmetrical action, meaning he's using both his hands at the same time. They're doing both the exact type of technique, which is a direct wrist grab. I, in response, I'm going to step back with my left foot, pulling my opponent off balance, bringing both my hands palm up, bring my hands above my opponent's hands, obtaining a release by turning both my hands palm up. If I do not obtain a release, because I'm in cat's stance, whack, front snap kick into the groin. That's the key. Now, again, what do I mean by ambidextrous behavior, symmetrical action? Hey, I could have stepped back with my right foot, kick with my left, kick with my right, heel palm thrust. That's our base technique, right? That's the concept. I can just as easily step back with my left, kick with my right, then kick with my left and drive my opponent through. Again, one is the traditional power side or the ideal phase of the technique. The other one is the mirror image of the technique. But the bottom line is that we're trying to talk directly in relationship to the attack. Is again, from here, because it's a symmetrical action, I could step back with my right, I could step back with my left, but my upper body's still doing the same action. That's the key. Now I just brush my hair, get out of it if I chose not to do my Kenpo technique. That's an example of what we're talking about. Ambidextrous behavior. I can do each side, and symmetrical action. I can do both sides in symmetry to one another. Another example of this would be the base movement from parting wings. Person executes, steps forward their right foot, executing a front two-hand push. Boom! I use simultaneous outward knife hands. Again, ambidextrous behavior, symmetrical technique. He's coming in with both his hands with direct pushing actions. I'm responding with outward hand swords with each one of my hands at the same time. Now, when we look at this action, whether we're doing parting wings or twist of fate, the same basic concept we're getting the idea of from here. Now, when we do this action in relationship to mirror images, let's go back to that wonderful technique we talked about earlier with cross twigs. This is against the rear two-hand wrist grab. No, sir. I don't wear my wrist on my chest. Thank you. Yeah, you never have any of your students do that either, right? Sure. Now, right from here, my opponent's going to grab me with both his wrists. So what am I going to do? Again, when someone grabs, what's the rule? When someone grabs you, you pin or re-grab. In this case, I re-grab both of my opponent's wrists. I take my left foot, Todd Durgan, and I step off diagonally to pull my opponent off balance and check off his width and depth zones. I then execute my outward elbow, crossing the arm across the body, around, overhead, and we all hit it. Have a nice day. Up.
It was nice.
Oh, good. We'll make it worse. All right. Now, here's the concept. He grabs me here. If I grab with both of his wrists, I can just as easily step across with my right foot, executing a left outward elbow, crossing his twigs, pulling them across his body, which you won't let me do. So, wham! Down! Too bad you lose. Up. Now, please understand, Mr. Blackwell does not know this technique, so we're going to go over and break it down so for his edification, but also to elaborate on what we're talking about with, again, symmetrical action, ambidextrous behavior. From here, I'm going to grab his wrist, step across, bend my elbow, hit him with an outward elbow. I'm going to take his left hand, I'm going to pull it directly across, crossing his twigs. I'm going to allow that circling action to create a figure eight-like motion into an overhead inward elbow. I'm going to release my other hand and match it, executing simultaneous heel palms to his back. Hey, patty cake. Here's that ambidextrous behavior, symmetrical action. Now, I drive my knee into his sternum as I do this with an offset sandwich. And then, if I do as Mr. Parker would do, boom, I could push him away. And anyone who knows Mr. Parker, who ever saw him do that, boom. And I'll tell you, once you see him do it and you like it, you keep it. It's a great move. The key ingredient here is that because he is utilizing both of his hands, an ambidextrous action, a symmetrical motion, both of his hands at the same time, then I can utilize, I have a, as Mr. Parker would say from the Chinese restaurant, one from column A, one from column B choice. In the ideal phase, I'm taught one way of moving. But again, as we learn in forms like long 3, we're learning how to utilize symmetrical behavior and ambidextrous action. If I can do it on the right side, I can do it on the left side, or I can use both my hands together for various actions. That's the key. Whether it be done to the front or the rear, and again, we're going to go into one last thing, environment dictates your action. If I'm against a wall, facing a wall, and the person grabs me, then I would go back to that original version where I would step into my opponent. Why? Environment dictated my action. But the basic key of the technique is still adhered to. That's the beauty of the motion. I prefer to step off diagonally, but if I've got one of those situations where a guy slams me face first against the wall, gets a drop on me, tries to pull my arms back like some jiu-jitsu practitioners will do in a surfboard, and pin my chest against the wall or the floor, hey, here's an option I have. So that is the basic understanding of what we're talking about. Ambidextrous behavior, symmetrical action. I hope you got something out of that, and I hope now you'll go back and look at some of your techniques like hooking wings and begging hands and cross twigs and twirling wings and twist of fate, and look at those symmetrical hand techniques and see what you can get out of them. Well, that being said, with the assistance of Mr. Dennis Blackwell, Stern Cap, thank you very much. Thank you, Joe Rebelo for Rebel's Kenpo Karate. Until next time, keep training.